Parents of Reddit, what did your kid do that they think they got away with, but you knew the whole time and just didn't say anything? I gave my son an old blanket and told him it was an invisibility cloak like in Harry Potter. He used it to hide from monsters. One night he walks into the kitchen, me standing there, and he continues to walk to the pantry, grab the animal crackers and go back to his room. I was so amused I didn't do anything and went and got the box after he fell asleep. This is definitely the best one I've read so far. My kids broke the kitchen window playing baseball in the backyard. None of them owned up to being the one who broke it and none of them ratted anyone out. They firmly stuck to their story. They had no clue how it happened. The two girls next door ratted them all out a couple of days later when my husband was fixing the window. My older son pitched and my younger son hit. My daughter was going to rat, but older bro paid her off. I was kind of happy that they were sticking together and never mentioned it after that day. It was about 2 years ago now and they still think we are idiots who think window break is still a mystery. My daughter was going to rat, but older bro paid her off. The best part of this story. Our youngest needed very little sleep, so he wore us out long before he was sleepy. We did the whole bedtime routine at 8 PM. And he would often spend 2 to 3 hours having lightsaber fights on his bed with imaginary characters until he wore himself out and would finally fall asleep. He is 17 now and recently confessed that he didn't really go to sleep when we put him to bed. He was quite surprised to find out we all heard him but were just happy he was in his room thinking he was being quiet. Ha, this is my eldest. He's preteen now and just reads until he falls asleep, and I really don't care, so long as he's quiet. I used to steal my mom's car after my parents went to bed to go see my girlfriend. I found out as an adult my mom knew the whole time and didn't really care because I always put some gas in the tank. One of them put a stick of butter into the VCR. Honestly I don't know which, because they all deny knowing anything about it. That's a new one. There was a controversy at my house that came to be known as Yogate. Somebody kept eating yogurt in the shower and leaving the empty containers in there. Everybody denied it. My sister told me last month that once my mother came running desperately to her because she found my pea stash. For around 10 years I toughed they were well hidden from my parents. Took my 10-year-old son and his friend by train to Toronto for his birthday. Hotel had adjoining and connecting rooms. We get back to the hotel from dinner and say goodnight to the two kids in the next room. Door very slightly ajar. Wife and I get into bed. She falls asleep and I'm reading a book. All of a sudden I hear TSSSHHHSSST, a very loud white noise sound. 3 seconds later, TSSSHHHSSST. 3 seconds later, TSSSHHHSSST. This went on for 5 or 10 minutes. So finally I got quietly out of bed, tiptoed to the door of their room and peeked in. The P channels had been disabled, but if you clicked on them, for a split second an image would appear and then go all static TSSSHHHSST. I bit my lip to stop from laughing, and crawled back into bed. Never said a word to him until he was much older. Disabled P is a fairly odd kink for a 10-year-old to have. I used to sneak watching an extra episode of whatever was on Cartoon Network with my little brother when we were younger. Think 4-6 range. He'd grab the blankets, and I'd set up the TV. We were in the basement, so we thought we were being sneaky, but every few nights we'd hear our parents at the top of the stairs make comments about noise downstairs and we'd ninja right back to bed. Looking back, they totally knew. Parents have to go along with this game of cat and mouse because that's what makes being a kid fun too. I would sit on the roof of our house pretty frequently. Parents never mentioned it until I was like 28, and it was an in-passing comment that caught me off guard and I was like wait, what? They knew. Apparently the neighbors were always worried I would fall and die. One Sunday morning, my dad was about to wake me up to ask me to go to church. My girlfriend had slept over the night before. Before he could knock on my door, I heard my mom say leave them alone. Do you think he wants to go when they could have the house to themselves for a couple hours? Mom is the ultimate wingman. Had no idea she knew I was such a heathen. LOL. Wingman for the win. My son when he was about 5 used to love to play on the Nintendo DS. I used it as a reward for good behavior. One day he fell asleep in my room. where the DS lived on the side. When I went to move him to his own bed, to my surprise I found the DS neatly tucked under my pillow. He seemed to have faked falling asleep under the expectation he'd be left where he was, then played it before hiding it and drifting off. I was so impressed. He's now 12 and still doesn't know that I know. Eating ice cream out of the freezer when I'm not looking, and then smoothing the top with her spoon so it looks uneaten. I'm not an idiot. Also, I invented that shtick. At least she used a spoon. I would scoop the ice cream up with my fingers. I still do that sometimes. In my senior year of high school, I forged notes from my mom to excuse my absences, illnesses, appointments, funerals. I mixed it up well. I was doing well in school, worked, was a good kid. She knew everything. Decided if I was going to act out, this wasn't that bad. It could be worse. Pretty smart. I never risked anything else. To not push my luck. Parents are a lot smarter than we have them credit for. This isn't me, but my dad as a kid. My dad grew up in the Philippines, the countryside, aka the Bukid as he calls it, and his family were farmers who didn't have a lot of money. My grandpa would always send him off to get groceries with some money, and he was scary strict, so if you bought candy or something, he'd be pee about it. Every time he sent my dad to buy groceries, my dad would buy a bag of small loaves of bread cause they were like 1 peso. He would inhale that whole thing of bread as fast as he could so my grandpa wouldn't catch him. Of course my grandpa caught him cause of the receipt, lol. He always just let him go because, well, as long as it's food. As a Filipino, that sounds extremely Filipino. My 7-year-old twin sons planned a heist to steal the chocolate Easter bunnies. They had it planned to all go down at 9:30 p.m. 1. Baby sister comes in and distracts parents crying about bad dream. 2. They recover tallest chair in house they have stashed in laundry and place it in front of pantry. 3. They place wooden box that they have been constructing all afternoon on chair so that taller twin can reach chocolate bunnies. 4. Spend 5 minutes negotiating with older sister in the hallway to not rat them out in exchange for a cut of the take. All in loud whispers that we could clearly hear in the lounge. 5. One of the little hoodlums gives 2 slight knocks on the hallway door and little sister jumps up and says she feels better now and sprints off to her brother's room for her cut. 6. Not even mad bro, just super impressed. Obligatory, those kids are going places. I stole my first car when I was 3. My dad took me to a department store. I got in one of those pedal cars and pedaled around the store while my dad shopped. He didn't buy anything and let me pedal right out of the store with it and took it home. He thought it was hilarious. My dad, RIP. Not a parent, but when I used to come back from parties stinking of deodorant and with red eyes because someone went around spraying deodorant and it got in my eyes, my parents 100% knew what was up. And then there was the time that I legitimately got into a deodorant fight. I was the kid. When I was 15, my friend and I started to smoke weed. One night we got some strong stuff and decided to smoke in my room and blow it out the window. We were so stoned playing Battlefront when my mom walks in. "Are y'all really just smoking weed in the house?" "No," I said. She slowly backed out of my room, giving me a weird look that totally freaked me out. She was probably thinking of how much a dumbass you were, lol. My little sister and I used to pretend we were invisible as long as we only stayed in the shadows on the ground and crawled. One night we snuck into the living room to get our Game Boys. My dad was sitting in front of the fireplace and my mom was on the couch. Neither of them acknowledged us, so we firmly believed they didn't see it. We crawled directly through the center of the room. LOL. Best parents ever, ha 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 ha. He has a boyfriend. Tells me they're just a couple of buddies hanging out playing Magic. Buddy thanked me for raising such a sensitive guy. My parents must have thought I was gay when my best friend and I played Magic together through high school. Sadly, playing Magic doesn't attract the ladies. I didn't know the whole time, but last year my son, elementary school, lost a library book by loaning it to another kid who didn't return it. Instead of telling me, he stole $21 from his younger sister's money. She had just had a birthday, so she had a decent stash, and paid the school librarian for the book. I found out over the summer when I received a refund check for $21 from the school. Turns out his friend returned the book after all. I put the funds back in her bank and had a talk with him about honesty. That kid is going places. My friend and his brother were 11 and 12. They playing football in their front room and they accidentally threw the ball through the window. They knew they were in deep crap, but thankfully their parents weren't home. They made up a story about how some kids were riding their bikes by the house and they threw a rock through the window. They even brought a rock in from outside and put it on the floor of the living room. Their parents came home and didn't get mad. They just said okay. 10 years later they said they knew it was a lie. The glass was outside of the house, not inside. The parents were happy that their sons weren't fighting for once, so they let it go. Used to smoke weed in my friend's backyard when we were 16, under the pretense that we were just chilling around the fire. We thought his parents didn't know. Then one night my friend says there's pasta inside if anyone's hungry, and I was starving. I stumble inside and rummage around nearly every drawer for a while looking for cutlery. Eventually his dad was just like, "So you got the munchies, huh?" I just got out a yee and wander back out. Not long after that his dad would come out and enjoy the odd J with us and confirmed they knew from the first time we did it. This killed me yee. I used to think I was getting away with bad words. When I heard a bad word, I just knew it was bad, so I never repeated it near anyone. But at home I would go to my room, shut the door, and start yelling the bad words in weird voices, and then I'd walk out like nothing happened. My parents always heard, but they thought it was so funny they never told me crap. Fuck, shitey dick. Not a parent, but an elementary school educator. Many kids at the school speak Spanish, but assume I don't. I do speak Spanish, so I can fully understand all their secret conversations. I don't let my kids have Nutella at home because it's not good for them. There is a jar hidden at the back of the pantry so my husband can be the Nutella hero whenever I'm not home. It's cute coming home to chocolate covered faces and them thinking I have no idea. Swap it to Vegemite and watch those little shoots stop asking for Nutella. I love Vegemite BTW. When I was 3-6, I remember this weirdly well. I would wake up at around 5:20, go downstairs to the main floor, get a cookie from the kitchen, then go downstairs, basement, and watch TV. I remember watching all of Fraggle Rock over the years. I would go back to my bed, second floor, before my mom came home from her run, 7 AM, and wake up again for school. I only found out that my parents knew by a stride offhand comment my dad made about losing cookies all the time. Not a parent, but seriously, I'd always sneak off to the kitchen to get a drink of pop after my parents went to bed. After about 6 months of doing this fairly regularly, my dad came out into the kitchen and told me to at least take the bottle to another room if I wanted to try to be sneaky. I felt pretty stupid. I used to steal handfuls of candy and hide them under my pillow, then after my parents came in and said goodnight I'd eat it all. But I wasn't good at hiding the evidence. I had parties at my house when my mom went out of town for more than 2 days. She later told me she knew because the house was always cleaner than when she left. Win-win. One time I didn't get dessert as a kid, which happened to be ice cream, because I didn't finish all my dinner. Well, it was in one of those really big plastic tubs. I stayed up at night till everyone was asleep, pulled the chair up really quietly next to the freezer so I could get up to it, and took the ice cream out. I brought it back to my room and turned into an absolute animal. Well, I woke up the next morning with the ice cream melted and still there, so I quickly put it back into the freezer before anyone was up. No one had any ice cream for a couple of days, so I thought I was in the clear. Then my sister tried getting a bowl for herself and couldn't get this one chunk of ice cream out. Turns out I forgot to take the metal spoon I was eating it with out of the tub. My 13-year-old boy has started taking showers in the evening because it feels so good, so go to sleep clean. Okay kid. I don't know whether he does this because it legitimately feels good, he's masturbating, or shaving pubes. I took evening showers for all 3 reasons. I share a bedroom with my 8 and 11-year-old. The younger has always had issues with sleeping. Even in the womb she never stopped. For example, Aged 4, she escaped her room and snuck past my wide open door, where I used to sleep with my head right next to it so I could hear her, down the creaky stairs like a ninja. Using an umbrella, she undid the lock that I had added to the top of the door that led to the rest of the house from upstairs. She managed to find my keys hidden in a drawer and unlock the Yale lock using a chair to reach. Then out she went wandering at about 2 AM. When she got bored, she knocked on the nearest door to tell them to take her home. Police obviously were called and they found me by looking for a wide open front door. She still likes to be the last awake and the first up. Problem is, I now know to be alert at all times, so I pretend to be asleep whilst listening out for her. She'll steal my mobile to play games or go to wake her big brother and then tell me he was already up. She'll also look through all my makeup or go on the PS4 in the living room despite there being a not before lunchtime rule. Most of these things don't bother me. If she's quiet and entertaining herself, it's good enough for me. Sometimes it's fun to scare her in the act though. Just a sudden comment and she freezes and shoots herself and starts up with ridiculous excuses. Sometimes the panic is enough to satisfy me and I pretend to fall back to sleep. She waits a minute or so and then back to sneaking. That kid is hilarious. I used to sneak off to go have sex with my girlfriend in the woods. Apparently, my girlfriend changed shirts once because my mother noted it in a text to my aunt. Obligatory, not apparent, but when I was a kid, I was desperate to read anything I could get my hands on. When I was about 11, my mom read a ton of body strippers. I'd sneak them, knowing that even though she read them, being Southern Baptist, I'd get in a crap ton of trouble if she found out. She totally found out, didn't get mad, just gave me a stack of Harlequins and some series that were romance but less sex and told me those were better books anyway. I used to do this too. Realized it made me feel all tingly and I wanted more. So when my mom realized this, she started leaving out Christian romance novels and there was no sex in those. Still good books, but I need my smut. In 8th grade I came home after smoking a little too much. I tried to rush to the shower to cleanse myself of the smell, but my mom caught me first. She asked why my eyes were red, and because I was stoned out of my mind, said I rubbed Cheeto dust on my eyes. Then, to make it worse, I had to sign a check for putting some of my birthday money in the bank, and it took me 20-30 seconds to find where to sign. Then I just stood there awkwardly for another minute mumbling to myself before remembering the shower. There is literally no way my mom didn't know. When I was a kid, my sister and I woke up early Christmas morning and unwrapped every single present Santa got us before our parents woke up, since obviously they wouldn't know if Santa even made it to our house. This didn't go quite to plan. My son had a picture of Pamela Anderson in his wallet, nude from the waist up, when in middle school. He asked me to get his library card out for him one day, and I ran across it. I never called him on it. Wonder if he still has it? P.S. I'm his mother. You know what's funny? I assumed you were the mom. IDK. Turns out my mum knew I was gay since I was like 17. Also turns out I wasn't actually gay and my mum figured that out too. Eating candy in his goddamn room. But it's all good. He throws away his trash. I feel like it's me and my dad. If I got caught smoking weed, I was in trouble. If I did it, got rid of the evidence, and he never found out, I'm good. I'm sure my kid knows I know, but he's smart enough not to say anything. I keep finding deleted pictures of naked boobs in the recycle bin. I guess my boy's smart enough to click delete on those pics, but not smart enough to know what the recycle bin does. I don't want to tell him either. At least this way I can keep an eye on his interests and make sure he's not into anything sick. Not a parent, but I have a story. When I was going through puberty and shortly after I discovered how to shake hands with the president, I got caught white-handed and played it off as me simply scratching a private spot with gusto. Thus began a mad streak of me discovering my own potential that involved some particularly close encounters in which I'd convinced myself I was not caught. Heck, I think I developed a twisted exhibitionist kink from barely getting away with it so many times. When I look back upon my actions as an adolescent, I see just how obvious I was. One incident that stands out is when I was fishing with dynamite while my bedroom door was open. As soon as I heard a relative's uncertain footsteps approaching the room that sounded like it contained a meat processing facility, I threw a blanket over the Tower of Pisa and picked up a book. There I was, sweating bullets under a blanket and reading The Lord of the Rings upside down, thinking I was slick. Nice euphemisms, bud. When I was a kid, on Halloween my parents always told us we could eat 5 pieces of candy, so I would take a bite of something and say I didn't like it. My mom would let me throw it away and it wouldn't count. I thought I was being sneaky and eating more candy than I was supposed to. Realized later that my mom was watching me throw out half my candy. You done played yourself, kid. Our 4-year-old daughter and her father call each other punk butt while I'm in the bathroom. She tries to whisper, but we all know 4-year-olds are the best at whispering. She's a very sweet little lady and normal won't say any cuss words, so I think it's cute. She really thinks her and daddy have a funny secret. My 3.5-year-old son will go into his room, shut the door and sing songs from movies like Frozen, Moana and Trolls, but he won't do it in front of anyone at any time. Threw a party while my parents were out of town. Friend's mom lived down the street and bought us soda and gave her number to parents. We didn't have alcohol or even weed. We just watched movies and I made out with a boy after thinking I was a lesbian for a year. My brother told me that my parents assumed I was throwing a party when they left. Not a parent. In fact, I'm still a teen. I'm pretty sure my parents know what I'm up to when I come back at 12 AM with red eyes and smelling of deodorant. Also, looking back at it, keeping a can of deodorant in the car as air freshener also must make it quite obvious as to what I'm doing. Vomiting at 2 or 3 AM in the morning probably isn't food poisoning either. They definitely know. Who am I kidding? Crap, I thought I was sneaky. I love my parents. Especially you, mum. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.